Hello, I'm Jamie Rigatti, and I'm here with Emma Partlow.
Hi, good
And
morning.
we are on the top 64 here at CubeCon. That's what's happening today. We're going to be covering the draft that is Emma's.
My peasant cube.
Yes,
This is really
so
exciting.
exciting.
Yeah, so it's going to be really exciting today. So we'll give you a rundown of what's happening. So there's a top 64. So there will be 8 cubes going on today. Whoever freeos those cubes will be in the top 8. So you need to win CubeCon, you need to basically go 6-0 today.
That's pretty easy, right?
I mean, it must be easy for people like Reed Duke and Caleb Durward who are in this top 64, right?
Yeah. Well, so Cube, I mean, anything can happen. That's the exciting part.
Right, this is it.
Yeah.
It's going to be a really exciting day. The top 8 is also going to be really exciting because we'll have the Magic Online Vintage Cube as the top 8, which is the current iteration of that Vintage Cube, which a lot of people have said across the weekend and since that was up on Magic Online that this is one of the best iterations of Vintage Cube ever.
Wow.
So seeing that in paper is going to be really fun. Hopefully we'll see some excellent players in that top 8 and it's just going to be a great time. We're here to have fun. It's going to be cube.
Yeah. Can I ask you a couple questions about your cube?
Go for it. I can talk about my cube all day like people can talk about their cube. I'm an open book.
Okay, so I've personally not made a cube yet.
Okay.
Would you have any like advice for a first timer?
That's a great question. So when it comes to building a cube, I think you need to spend time on what kind of experience do you want? Is there a particular thing that you like doing in Magic? Do you like the color pairings of Teema, for example? Would you want to do a Teema cube? Do you really like Ravnica as a backdrop? So would you want to do a Ravnica cube? As for me, I really like low rarity cards. I'm a big fan of Pauper. I play a lot of those formats. So I really wanted to push the limitation on rarity and having just a commons and uncommons format, which is what this peasant cube is. Building a cube is really scary. There's a lot of different ways you can go about it. If you're looking to build a cube but you don't know where to start, sometimes it's just best to take someone else's cube and just use that as a base and then evolve from it, which is how I started with my cube. I used Eric Klug's peasant cube, which is a great peasant cube, as just like a base because just stuffing random cards together doesn't always work, right? So I just used that as a base, and then over the years, I've just kind of tinkered it. People have played with it and just added my touch to it.
Gotcha. So, I mean, you do make adjustments
Yeah.
frequently?
Well, yeah. Given the amount of cards that come out now, like there's a release every month, it seems. And when you have sets like Commander Masters, Double Masters that downshift a lot of these rares and mythic rares, I have to look at them going, cool, these are going to be in my cube. A really good example recently is Gonti, Lord of Luxury, was a rare. It's now an uncommon in Commander Masters, which I've added to my cube. Yeah, which is pretty fun. But just the amount of releases makes it really hard to keep up at times because if you blink and don't do anything, there's like 6 releases and you're like, holy moly, I need to catch up before there's another release. This is really scary. But no, it's really fun. I'm a big fan of these like lower rarity formats, and a lot of people are just like, oh, it's a bit mopey because there's no really like no mythic rares, there's no power, there's no rares, there's no busted silly things you can do. But I'm just like, Force of Will's in there, Demonic Tutor, Sylvan Library. These were all uncommons at one point because there was no such thing as rares. And hell, you got like Strip Mine. That's also an uncommon. So you have these independently busted cards that I don't think people quite realize were like uncommons at one point.
Right. Yeah.
And my favorite thing when it comes to these lower rarity formats is if someone plays a card, they go, how the F is this a common or an uncommon? Because it just does something really good. And that's a great experience and it's a great feeling to see.
Definitely. So I was fortunate enough to draft your cube yesterday.
Oh, what did you draft?
So I have a thing for green, white
Okay.
counters and go wide. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, then. It looks like we're going to go to the draft. We will be watching Reed Duke trying to break my cube once again. Some good cards in this pack. Let's have a look. So for context, Reed Duke has drafted my cube. He drafted it on the first day and went 3-0. But he accidentally registered for it again, and he went 3-0 again. as you do, because you Reed Duke. So yeah, there's some really good cards in here. I kind of like the cast out. Goblin Bushwhacker is really good as well because red's one of the strongest colors in this cube.
I see.
In particular, mono red and also red black. So it'll be interesting to see what Reed takes here.
I mean, there's no bad choice.
No, Necrotol's also good as a removal spell. Carrion Feeder's also a nice one. It plays into that sacrifice role. I know Reed drafted mono red and mono green over the weekend and went undefeated.
Run it back, right?
Mono red is very good in this cube.
Yeah.
There's a lot of independently just good cards and a lot of good burn.
Mm-hmm.
So it just depends what Reed wants to do here. He's got a lot of good choices. If it was me, because it's different this time, right? You're not drafting for quote unquote fun. You're drafting to win this pod.
What did he take?
I don't know.
He didn't take the Goblin Bushwhacker that was still in there.
Porcelain Legion, there's a nice one. Battlecry Goblin's really good because you can just have this really cheap curve and just kill people.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's some good options in here. Rift Bolt is also fine, but you can probably get that on the wheel. And the Sling Gang you turn it is also great if Reed wants to go into the sacrifice theme, as we saw with the Bushwhack, as we saw with the Carrion Feeder in the previous pack.
It's so awesome to watch a draft like this because you just see all these old cards and it's so nostalgic.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about this cube as well, there's a lot of mythic uncommons from the respected limited sets, and some people have came up to me over the weekend going, I played against this card, I remember losing to this in like Arrow Devastation Limited, thanks for the PTSD. I'm like, you're welcome, this is a great time. Another thing to note in this pack, you do have Rectos Cranarium and Opulent Palace. Peasant cubes tend to have great mana. You don't have things like Shocklands or Pathways, or any decent untapped mana sources. So these lands might be a high priority as we go through the draft.
Was that Fire and Ice?
Yes, that was Fire and Ice. Also just a great card.
Cube is so hard because all the cards are good.
Yes.
It's like so overwhelming.
Yeah. So there's some good picks in here. Timeless Witness is a really nice one. Any kind of regrowth effect in these style of cubes are really good. For context at home, my Peasant cube is a very permanent creature focus cube. So any way where you can just like 2-for-1 your opponents is great. Looks like we took the Frontier Bivouac there, which is a really just good mana option. It's a really good mana option for that Fire and Ice. And here's the best card in the pack in Fragrant Inspector, which Bree's probably not going to take it here 'cause I don't think he's in white.
He could be. It's still early enough.
Improbable Alliance is a really fun build around because Reed does have that Fire and Ice. It just means you can just draw extra cards and make a board of fairies, which is really good for the Izzet Spellsinger style decks. Also, Mind Control is a really good one. As I mentioned before, this cube is very permanent focus, so being able to steal your opponent's best creature to turn the tide of combat is really important here as well. But it looked like he took the Convulsive Research. So it looks like Reed's in blue here, hoping to wield this Angler Drake, which is a really nice top end for this style of deck.
Or the Alliance, right?
Yeah. He's got a lot of good options. Ooh, we have a Grizzly Fate. Reed is not in the colors of green, but Grizzly Fate is the kind of card that can just win a game. One thing about this cube, there is a lot of older uncommons that people just don't realize that are just really good. So stuff like Grizzly Fate, Centaur Glade's another good one, which is a 4-mana enchantment that you pay for to make a free Centaur. It doesn't feel exciting, but it's the kind of card that you don't respect, but when you play against it, you're going to lose. And then you pick it quite highly. Right, so let's have a look here. The Thriving Land's a nice one here because it's just a nice mana source. The Magic Missile is also quite nice because it goes with this. And the third path Iconoclast is great because you can just make tokens anytime you cast a instant sorcery or non-creature spell. It's just a really nice way for these spell slinger decks just to go wide. And hopefully trying to will that Improbable Alliance if he does decide to stay in Izzet. But it's looked like Reed is taking the Ornithop to Paradise, which is just a nice mana option.
Right.
It's an O2 fly that can carry some equipment. You have things like Bone Splitter and Locks of the Warhammer in this cube. So eventually, once the Ornithopter's done its mana stuff, it can just wear equipment pretty well.
And it just keeps him open at this point.
Right, this is it. And this Mana Leak's a really nice pickup. You got Light Up the Stage, you got Playing with Fire, all these really good spells. But Yoga Tree Speaker is the best card in this pack. It's just whether Reed wants to tap into green. Apparently, Grease Soul Ring is just really good. You knew. Reed did draft a mono green deck for his first draft, and he said to me, it's just like, yeah, it's like mono green, like Mana Dorks with a spectral possession, and I somehow just managed to win. I was like, okay. You're clearly seeing something that not many other people do. So Reed respects the green soul ring here.
So he really doesn't have a dedicated lane yet.
No, I think he's looking to be in Teamer because we saw Fire and Ice, we saw the Tree Speaker, we saw the Compulsive Research. So it looks like Reed is probably going to be in blue. He's just deciding what the second and maybe the third color is.
And there's enough fixing to support 3 colors fairly easily?
You can do 2 colors and a splash in most cases. It's really hard to be like a dedicated 3-color deck. Just because you have some you have like the tri-lands and the bounce lands, and a lot of these just come in tapped, right? So there's some really good cards in this pack. Yavimaya Elder is like the fantastic one. It just allows Reed to do some ramp. It allows to draw in some cards. It's just a really good card if you want to be in green, which is like Reed's going to fall into with this Yoga Tree Speaker.
Is that the one that's nicknamed Steve?
No, that's Sakura Tribe Elder,
okay.
Which is also in this cube. He's like old man Steve. Yeah.
He has like the best poker face.
Yes. Like Din Rover Horror is probably one of the best cards in this pack, but I don't think Reed's in those colors, so he's probably just going to take this Vital Splicer, which just makes a free golem. Bane of Balaged's also a fine one if Reed wants to go into ramp. But Dim Rover Horror is going to be a pretty nasty one, and I wouldn't be surprised if Reed just like hate drafted it because it can be really powerful. Especially if you're able to flicker it, just forcing people to discard every turn, which is just disgusting.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, so there's a hate.
Yeah. It could be a hate draft, it could splash for it. But yeah, it's just a really good card in this case. See, the Opulent Palace came back, which is in Sultai colors. Looks like he's prioritizing that. There we go. So it looks like Reed's probably going to, like, Reed can still play the Ice of Fire and Ice. So it looks like we're probably entering into like a Sultai build. So let's. Oh. I was hoping he would pick up the pack. This Mind Control wheel, which is really good.
Wow.
That is an amazing pick for Reed.
Surprising wheel.
Yeah, no, people don't really rate Mind Control effects really high. Like this Grizzly Fate came around as well, which is amazing. I think this Green Speaker is probably the pick. But Grizzly Fate is just a really nice top end just to clog up the board with 2/2 bears. And Jungle Barriers in the cube because there is like a dedicated wall strategy.
Oh.
Yeah. So Reed could go into walls at some point. Because there are cards like Assault Formation in this cube, because it was downgraded to an uncommon. So if Reed happens to open the Assault Formation, he may be able to attack with some walls.
So that was Bulwark? What was the...
It's a walking Bulwark.
Okay.
It's a wall card. It's a very Walls Matter card.
Ah.
And also picked up a Mind Stone, which is pretty good as well. So it looks like we have some blue cards. We have some green cards. I see a Utopia Sprawl. I see a Yoga Tree Speaker. I see the Yavimaya Elder. I see Mind Stone. I see the Ornithopter Paradise. So it looks like Reed has a lot of good fixing, a lot of good ramp, and he also he's picked up 2 dual lands, which happen to be in green and blue, which are looking to be his primary colors here.
And would you say it's a solid start?
I'd say this is a solid start. Picking up lands early is always really good because people will fight for those eventually because people just want to cast their spells. Please, for the love of God, Watsy, print some uncommon untapped lands one time.
Can you just take a Sharpie and
Yeah, just change the rarity. Ghoul Turf is a nice one here if Reed wants a nice bounce land. People keep boxing my cube, goddammit.
Rishkar is great too, right?
Rishkar's really cool. It's a really fun one. Just if you want to do some counter synergy, puts any creatures with a counter as a mana dork, which can be relevant. Whirler Rogue's also a really good card, but I don't think Reed's quite in the colours to utilize it best. There's a lot of good picks here. Preordain and Lightning Bolt are probably the best 2 cards in this pack, but it's just whether Reed wants to splash red or go into red here. Ghoul Turf would also be a nice pickup, but Reed does have those tri-lands already.
So this is like a turning point, this pack.
Yeah. Reed does have this really good strong base. It's just figuring out what other colours to have with it. Exclude's also fine if Reed wants a little bit of interaction and counter magic. He's taking a long, hard think on this. Looks like we're going to take the Lightning Bolt because I don't think Reed has drafted any removal at this point. So it's just good to have some interaction there.
Because you said it's really creature heavy.
Yeah, there's a lot of creatures, a lot of opponents. There's a Bloodbraid Elf in this pack, which I know how much Reed loves to cast a Bloodbraid Elf. Prophetic Titan's a really sweet card as well. It's the creature version of Prophetic Bolt.
I love is it Elvish Visionary?
It's Llanowar Visionary.
Oh, yes.
It is an Elvish Visionary, but it's 3 mana instead of 2. But it ETBs draws a card, which is really good. No, Reed there's spoiled for options here. There's counter spells looking really nice. Prophetic Titan's also really good, but I think Reed values the cheaper interaction here. There's a lot of red cards going around as well. Be interesting to see if someone drafts them on a red deck here.
Ooh, Watcher is really fun.
Watcher's a really fun card here. Elves of Deep Shadow is also quite nice. Centaur Glade, as I mentioned earlier, is really nice if Reed does decide to pick it. It's just a card that can just gum up the board because you're just able to play the long game. But of course, Reed values the mana dorks. I think he just values just having been able to cast his spells. Who doesn't love eating their vegetables?
Very responsible.
Yeah. I would hope this Centaur Glade wheels because that card is just really good. People don't respect it enough. Renegade Freya is a really nice one if you want just people dead very quickly. Terra Sunder's also quite good because there are some problematic enchantments and artifacts. Mentioning stuff like control magic and the Centaur Glade, having answers to those is really, really important. And with cards like Terra Sunder, you can just lightly splash the black to make sure you can kick for it. You don't need to be dedicated into black either.
Control magic is just a 2-for-1.
Right. This cube is all about 2-for-1. So just being able to yoink someone's best thing and then just beat them with it is just a really good thing to do in this cube.
So rude.
Fact of Fiction's a really nice one here. You got a Llanowar Elves, which Reed is probably just going to snap off here. I get the impression there's no green player at the table because Reed is just getting all these green creatures, or these really important mana dorks. It looks like Reed's just running back the archetype that he drafted on Friday, which he freeowed with, which is just like mana dorks and just this big payoff. So we have a Vastwood Surge here. We have a Capitec, which is a really good way to deal with artifacts and enchantments.
Which there are a lot of.
Yeah, there's a lot of Saruman's Trickery is also nice. It's basically a cancel with a mass. So you get to make a token out of the trade, which is relevant when there's so many permanents in the cube. But Capitec Wrecker is a really nice one if you just want to deal some damage and just get a little bit aggressive with these mana dorks.
I want to know his thought process for this. You can kind of see it because he lines up the cards in the front. But, yeah, what is the deciding factor?
It's clear that Reed has pivoted into green heavily. Sphinx's Tutelage is a really fun one if he really wants to take advantage of anyone playing monocolors in this deck, in this cube. Tezzeret Gambit's just a really fun draw spell. Spirit Monger's a really fun one. It's a really problematic hate piece. It's just a stubborn threat that can just stick around for quite a while. Just depends if Reed feels like milling out his opponents this weekend. And he does.
Maybe.
It's just really good against like the monocolored decks.
Ooh. Mystic.
Ridge Scale Tusker's a really nice top end for this mono green deck.
It helps turn your mana dorks into more threatening creatures.
Yeah, and it's just got a nice counter synergy as well. Reed can take this Millstone if he fancies milling people out, but I would be taking the Ridge Scale Tusker here. You've got so many ways to generate mana in this deck, and I just want some top end and put some counters on other creatures. And Reed agrees. That Gruul Turf Field as well, which is relevant. There's a lot of blue cards in the pack. I kind of like taking the Exclude or the Preordain here.
That is one of the bounce lands, right?
Yes, that is a Gruul Turf, yeah.
Which is a little dangerous because Strip Mine exists.
Yep, so Strip Mine, Wasteland are in here, and also Flicker Wisp is in here. So if you Flicker Wisp a bounce land, it can be pretty gnarly. But Reed has taken like 2 tri-lands as well, so he's pretty good for mana. So Reed just takes a Psionic Blast because it's the only blue card left in the pack. Might probably be a Cyborg card eventually. Oh, this Sentinel Glade's in the pack. Why is this Sentinel Glade in the pack? Someone should just please take it. So yeah, Sentinel Glade and Loot to Ill Core are good here. Loot to Ill Core just allows you to just rummage and find something that you need.
Right.
Sentinel Glade is just something to do all that excess mana, given that you have all these mana dorks. The fact it also has Shadow on Loot to Ill Core is relevant. It can wear equipment really well, and it just usually just gets in for chip damage. But also Murderous Cut is a really good card. This sort of cheap, effective removal is also quite good. So Reed takes a Loot Ill Core here and value in just that cheap interaction. So we have an Experiment one. We have a Sifter one, which is another great card if you are looking to do something with those mana dorks. And it's really good against the mono red decks because you are just able just to gain a load of life.
So great top end.
Yeah. Whether Reed wants to take this Artisan or Kozilek or this Vastwood Surge. I'll probably take the Vastwood Surge here. It's just slightly better with Reed's mana. And Reed is not looking to play like a reanimation strategy, so Artisan or Kozilek's a little worse. However, you do have these mana dorks, so there is a chance you can just ramp into it. All right, so let's see what Reed has got so far. So there's a lot of mana dorks. We have Elves of Deep Shadow, we have Jorg Tree Speaker, we have Llanowar Elves, we have a bunch of tri-lands, we have some sweet blue cards, we have this really nice green top end with like Sifter Worm, and we have some card filtering with Fact or Fiction. Also, interestingly, Reed has managed to take a couple of like mind control effects, which are going to come up in these games. They're going to be really good.
So do you think he's going to be straight teamer here?
I think he's going to be Simic Splash Red. I think the red's going to be really light. I can like this Firing Knight will probably go in. This Lightning Bolt will probably go in. But yeah, Reed has just like a really strong top end. He has these threats and he has these mind control effects that can just turn the tide of the game. And he's got Utopia Sprawl, which is great. He's got Ornithopter Paradise. He's got Yavimaya Elder that can find lands. Yeah, this is coming together quite nicely. I think in the next pack, Reed would like to see something like a Sylvan Library. It's just a really good way to filter out and just find what you need. Probably something for the lower end as well. So maybe some like 3 or 4 mana creatures, just to gum up the board a little bit. Okay. So Mystic Monastery is the Jeskai land. Casmina is a fine one if you're just looking to make a load of wizards, but it's not quite the right deck for that. So Wave Sifter is a nice one. Loxodon Warhammer is a nice one. And then there's a Elvish Mystic with Reed is just going to take. So he's just going to take all the mana dorks. Wave Sifter is a really nice one. Granted, Reed doesn't really have a way to blink it, but it's just a nice value card that just makes a load of clue tokens.
That probably wheels, though, right?
Yeah. This Loxodon Warhammer is also going to be a problem if someone drafts that. This looks like Reed. I think Reed has most of the mana dorks already, just from this draft. Everflowing Chalice is a nice one if Reed just wants more mana. Maze of If might be a nice utility land if you just want to deal with a threat.
Ooh.
Thrix is really good. That's a recent addition to the cube. That was a downshifting Commander Masters. So Thrix the Sudden Storm is really good at making your 5 mana value spells are more uncounterable. And Reed does have like Sifter Worm and Rich Scale Tusker, and these just become uncounterable.
Well, it's Flash.
Yeah,
right?
and it's
So
got Flash as well.
It's just like a I got you card.
And it's a 4/5 flyer on its own, so it can just close out games.
Yeah.
But people don't realize that you can just play like a Sifter Worm and it's uncounterable, which is brutal against like the control decks. If it sticks around, it could just take over a game.
And he's looking for some more top end.
Yeah. And there are a couple of mind control effects that are 5 mana value or more, and having them uncountable, it can be huge. So like Reed is audibling on Everflowing Chalice, which is just a great way to ramp up on mana, and this Fricks. Golgari Rock Farm's also fine. We don't really have any black to splash though. Bloodbraid Elf is also fine because we do have the Scroll Turf. And we all know how much Reed likes playing with Bloodbraid Elf. Psyche is in the tank here. There's a lot of good cards in this pack. I think I would take the Thrix and be greedy, and I'm probably going to get punished for it, and that's why I'm in the booth and not that's why I'm not drafting in this top 64 right now.
Is it the double blue?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's Everflowing Chalice is better for what this deck wants to do, but Fricks is just such a beating if you're able to keep it around. And just the idea of just having like an uncountable Sifter Worm and Ridge Scale Tusker is just too good to pass up, and Reed's decided to go for it. So that's one of the thriving lands. Simic Growth Chamber is a really nice one here because it's in Reed's colours. We're definitely a Simic deck here. So this Simic Growth Chamber should be the easy pick.
Yeah.
But there are some other cards in here, like Reclamation Sage is really nice. Just to have that free mana value, just to fill out the curve and just deal with any pesky artifacts or enchantments that may come the way. And Reed just takes the Force of Will, which is like one of the strongest, like, as I was saying earlier. Force of Will is like a great card. I know a lot of people say, oh, it's Force of Will. It's the most, like, best counter spells ever. But you still have to trade resources for it. You have to pay a life. You have to exile a card. It's just very good in this cube. Beanstalk Giant's a really nice one because it's a threat, but it can also ramp. Underground Battlement's also good because it can soak up aggression and generate some mana. And Reed does have a couple of walls as well. So it looks like Reed just wants to play this really aggressively ramp deck, but have some walls just to stem some aggression here.
He has a solid late game.
It is a solid late game. This regrowth's really nice if you just want to bring a few things back. Assault Formation is really good with all the walls that Reed has. But this Acidic Slime's also really sweet. Just having an answer that comes in entering the battlefield, and the Death Touch can be relevant in some places given how combat focused the cube is. There's also land destruction as well, which people don't often realize with Acidic Slime. Blowing up like a bounce land is also a fine play in this cube.
Especially if you do it super early because you rammed into that.
Right, this is it. He's got all these mana dorks. Playing like a turn 3 Acidic Slime, blowing up your tri-land or your bounce land. it's a solid strat in this cube, just given how, people prioritize these mana sources to play these spells. Regrowth is also great here. It just allows Reed to replay any of the spells that he wants to do, like Force of Will, which just seems gross. Jilt's a really nice one here. We do have access to red, so he can splash it for the kicker. Jilt's just a really nice way to create some tempo, so it bounces a creature and you can deal 2 damage. It's probably one of my favorite blue cards in this cube. That's how I like to play blue in Magic, just have that fun tempo-y bounce and blow something up, instead of just being like this hard counter control player.
That's very kind of you.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm doing a service. And given there's a lot of creatures in the cube that just have low toughness, just being able to chip something away is really nice. But Reed decided to go for the Burst Lightning here. So we have a Reckless Impulse, we have a Fire Blast. Feast of Succession is a really excellent card in this cube because Monarch is really powerful. And it couples up with a board wipe, but we do have Goreclaw and Kadama's Reach, which are probably going to be higher priorities for Reed, because Kadama Reach ramps, which is what Reed's looking to do. Wingmate Chaplain's an exciting one because it is the Walls Matter card. It allows you to grow your board and make some bird tokens, so Reed could take this as well, but Feast of Succession is a beating, and it might be something Reed is willing to hate draft just because he has all these mana dorks and all these low toughness creatures. And Feast of Succession, like wiping the board and then you becoming the Monarch, so you get to draw a card off it, is really powerful in 1v1.
Yeah.
But Goreclaw is also really good. It discounts some high power threats. It's just a beating if left unresolved. But Reed's decided to go to Kadama Reach here because he's probably going to be playing a lot of basics, so picking that up is smart.
Ooh.
And then the Wave Sifter come back around, as you said, Jamie. So we'll probably just snap this off. Heavenfold Chalice went round as well. That's pretty sweet. And this Bloodbraid Elf is also in there, which you can splash for because we do have this Frontier Bivouac and this the Gruul Bounce Land. Reed's going to tap into his inner Jund a little bit with this Bloodbraid Elf, maybe. Pristine Talisman's also a nice one. It's not exciting, but just being able to gain a little mana and incidentally gain 1 or 2 life is just really nice against these aggressive decks.
So this is a really tough choice.
It is a tough choice. We are getting close. We are getting close to the end. So Reed is just thinking about what he wants to fill out his deck with, and he's decided to go for the Pristine Talisman. Trigon Predator is a nice one. It's just a nice flying threat that can just deal with any artifacts or enchantments. Reed might just aggressively take the Cogwork Librarian and try and nab 2 cards in a later pack. There's a lot of bounce lands still going around, which is kind of surprising. It says to me there aren't people in Dimir or Orzhov. Path of the World Tree is just it's a kind of a ramp spell, but it just has a nice payoff if you decide to go greedy with 5 colors. So we have a Noise Marine in here, which is one of the Universes Beyond cards. Growth Spiral is a really nice one, which plays really well in what Reed's trying to do here. Excuse me. Which is just play loads of lands, ramp into these big threats. Incinerate is a fine sideboard option. And we're just getting through the dreg. So this is Soul Formations in the pack still, so he's probably just going to take it. You can see the smile on his face. I would love to see Assault Formation win a game in this draft, but we'll see. Reed does have some defender cards. He has a lot of the walls that generate mana. Yeah. So who knows? He may side this in and just beat people down with 4/4 walls. All right. Okay. Okay, then. So that was Reed's draft for the Peasant Cube. What did you think about that?
I mean, it's always really cool to watch like a professional Magic player draft.
It's nervous for me because it's my cube, and I'm just like, cool. This Pro Tour champion and like world champion top 8 player is just drafting my cube, and hopefully not going to break it. Not going to do anything too ridiculous. But yeah, what did you think about it? What do you think? like there's a lot of good green creatures in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think green was open early. He
Yes.
identified that, and then just took advantage of that
Yeah.
and built a pretty solid deck. He doesn't have that much interaction.
No, that's a bit worrying. I'm guessing the interaction Reed wants is I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna go over you with these big threats, and I'm gonna have stuff like force of will to back that up, and just want people dead as quickly as possible. And it's something he's drafted before, as I mentioned earlier during that draft. Reed has he drafted like this mono green deck that was full of like mana dorks, so it was very similar to what we're seeing now. But it had like spectral possession just as a way to ramp and make those 1/1s. So clearly Reed knows something if he's running it back this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, I can't help but root for Reed.
Oh no, same. I would love Reed. I would love like I have 2 players down to win this weekend. I would love Reed to win or Dom Harvey to win. And Dom Harvey is because he's English and we need some English representation in CubeCon. But yeah, this top 64 is going to be really stacked. We've got, Reed Duke, we've got Dom Harvey, we've got Sam Black, Caleb Durboard is in the top 64 as well. So there's just all these just like these limited ringers that have just come out to play QCon and hopefully win the trophy this weekend.
Yeah, and Caleb was our winner last year.
Correct. So not only is Caleb the first winner of QCon, he might be the first back-to-back winner of QCon as well, which would be insane. But I know full well Reed Duke, like I spoke to him before the event, and he was like, I am here to win QCon. Like, he's taking this seriously. He even won some cheese on Thursday and a cheese board. Like, guy could be doing literally anything else, and he's like, nope, I'm here to cube, I'm here to have fun, and I'm here to win. So we'll see what happens. All right. So, okay then. So we're going to go to deck building. I believe we have Ivan Meyer. We're going to look at his deck build, who will be playing Reed Duke in the first round. So it looks like Ivan has a nice mixture of, looks like we're going to go Jund here. I see a Flame Tongue Yearling. I see a Beetleback Chief. I believe I see a Flame Tongue Kavu as well, which is a nice one. We see Chain Lightning. We see Firebolt. Picture quality is a little rough, so it's very hard to see. Just hoping we can get some focus in there. But yeah, it looks like Ivan is kind of red-black maybe. Maybe splashing a little bit of green for some filler, like Vital Splicer. Excuse me. So yeah, it looks like we've got like a decent red-black deck. Ivan has ways to come up the board with this Beetleback Chief, Flame Tongue Carver, and Flame Tongue Yearling are just really nice removal spells that progress the board state. Chain Lightning is just another good one to chip off threats, as is Firebolt. And the Skim Render as well. So it looks like Ivan has a lot of removal, so he's able to get rid of these mana dogs and hopefully clear the path to victory. I also believe I see a Jury, which is a really nice sacrifice option if Ivan wants to do something with these tokens created by Beetleback Chief. So it looks like we're gonna have like a Simic ramp deck versus like a red-black mid-range, maybe with a little bit of sacrifice. Be interesting to see how these play. I believe I see a Zulabot Cutthroat as well, which is going to be a really nice one, just to deal, just to mitigate some life loss if Reed manages to get aggressive. Also see a Blightning and an Invasion of Amonkhet. Invasion of Amonkhet is a really fun one if you're able to defeat the battle, where it flips over into a creature and you can copy a creature from a graveyard.
Oh wow!
Yeah, it was the big limited bomb in March of the Machine. It was one of like the best uncommons you could play. And I was like, put it in my cube. It becomes a 4/4, and you can copy any creature in the graveyard. So just having that 4/4 with some extra text, depending on what the opponent has in the graveyard, is really nice. I also see an Animate Dead. I see a Hero's Downfall. I see an Unearth. I see a Murderous Redcap. I see a Bloodtithe Harvester. See a Mayhem Devil. So it doesn't look like Ivan has drafted the red-black sacrifice deck. There is a Jury. There is a Judas the Scourge Diva. And to be honest, red-black sack is probably one of the best decks in this cube. It's that big enough that you can have 2 people draft sack at the deck and they'll do very well. So we can see Ivan just displaying his deck right now. So I see a Carrion Feeder, which is a really nice sacrifice payoff. I see Bloodtithe Harvester, which is a nice option. We've got a Murderous Redcap, which is just fantastic to sacrifice with Carrion Feeder. We've got an Archfiend of Sorrow, which is a really nice top end for these like black decks. Just allows you to go over a little bit. I see an Inquisition of Kozilek, which is nice interaction. You also have Blightning. Like Unearth is really good just to bring back good to bring back like Judith and Mayhem Devil. But yeah, this deck looks sweet. You got a nice blend of removal. You got a nice blend of threats. You've got a nice ways to recur stuff. This Animate Dead's going to do a lot of lifting because you can target cards in the opponent's graveyard, so you can bring something back from their graveyard, which is something people don't quite always read with Animate Dead, but you can absolutely do that.
Yeah.
And then we've got an Active Aggression as well, which is really nice for these sacrifice decks because you can just yoink the opponent's best creature, sack it off, trigger Mayhem Devil, trigger Judith, and do all this sacrifice shenanigans. So yeah, Ivan has a really strong deck here.
So for the Unearth and Entomb, what targets does he have for those cards?
So for Unearth, you're just looking to bring back creatures like your sacrifice payoff. So it'd be really good to bring back Mayhem Devil, which is a really pivotal card in this deck.
Or Judith.
And Judith or Jury. Like your sacrifice payoffs are really good here. Also, you could just bring back a Murderous Redcap after you've done all your position shenanigans just to do it all again. This is the kind of card that you just want because it just creates that 2-for-1, right? Like someone's removed Judith and you're like, actually, I'm just going to unearth it and bring it back. And if there is no targets, you can just cycle it away for a new card.
Okay, I have a serious question to ask you.
Yeah, go for it.
Do you think Murderous Redcap is cute?
Yes.
Yay!
He's just a good little boy.
Yeah.
That just wants to kill people with persist and do some silly combos. It's unfortunate that Ivan didn't get the Grumgully, which replaces the persist with +1 punch counter, so you can keep looping it. There's a couple of loops in the cube. Wow. Not like you can force it, but Grumgully the Generous is a really fun one to have it. There's also a Kitchen Finks in the cube, so you can gain a bunch of life. But yeah, either way, Ivan has drafted a really powerful deck, and Reed might have some problems here. Just having this low sacrifice curve along with stuff like Mayhem Devil, which is going to chip away at those 1/1 mana dorks, right? It's going to pick them off quite easily. And then once the dust has settled, Ivan can cast his Archfiend of Sorrows and just go ham in the air.
So you think this is going to be a tough matchup for Reed?
I think it's going to be tough for Reed. But this is also Reed Duke, who could win with a ham sandwich blindfolded. So we'll have to see. But no, Ivan's no like anomaly when it comes to competitive Magic. He's also top 8 a couple of Pro Tours as well back in the day. So he clearly knows what he's doing as well. So it'll be interesting to see two competitive giants playing against each other in this cube in round 1. Looks like Ivan's ordering on the last few picks. Slaying Fire is a good removal card, but it does reward you for paying triple red to get the most out of it, because I forgot the name of the ability. It's from the original Eldraine.
Adamant.
That's the one. Adamant, thank you. Yeah, so it has Adamant, so it kind of encourages you to pay like all the same color mana to get the cost, to get the effect, sorry. And Ivan already has a lot of good removal. Like he has this Firebolt, he has this Chainline, he has a Go for the Throat, he has a Hero's Downfall, and then he has stuff like Mayhem Devil that can just pick off threats. Oh, and this Murderous Redcap. That's just going to do some absolute nonsense. There's also a Bastion of Remembrance, which is a really good enchantment for these sacrifice decks because it just enables to chip away at the opponent's life total. Reed is going to need to lean on this Sifter Worm to gain a lot of life, I think.
Yeah, so Ivan has a great curve, a lot of answers,
Yep.
a lot of threats.
With the sacrifice deck, you just want a really low curve of creatures that can do things at any point. You want to be as reactive as possible. Okay, so I'm really stoked that someone's drafted one of the better archetypes in the cube. Reed has also drafted great. Like the mono green go over is also really good. So it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out, because Reed does have a little bit of interaction. He does have that Force of Will and a couple other blue spells that might be able to get him there. But depending on how Ivan plays it out, this could be really rough for Reed. Just keeping those mana dorks around is going to be really hard when you have all this removal and a Mayhem Devil.
Right, definitely. What other decks are you like wanting to see today?
I really want to see the Azorius Blink deck because that is one of my favorite archetypes just to draft in Magic, like in general. There are some like signpost cards for Blink, so you have stuff like Soul Herder, Cloud Blazer. You also have Reflector Mage, which was a Bane of Standard at one point, and then you have stuff like Ephemerate. You have Seagate Oracle. All these ways just to manipulate those enter the battlefield abilities, sculpt your hand, and just like in response of you removing stuff, I'm going to ghostly flicker this thing. I'm going to make some more advantage. I'm going to grow my soul herder and I'm going to kill you. And that's just really fun for me.
That sounds like fun.
It's a lot of fun. It's really, people get frustrated with it because it's just really hard to remove threats when you can just be so reactive. But that I'm really hoping we see like a blink deck. That would be sweet. It's also one of the more powerful archetypes in the cube as well. All right, so we're going to go to a quick break while the players finish just deck building and get settled into round one. So yeah, stick around. Make sure you hit that follow button, and we'll be back soon.